Deputy Lord Mayor David Plumridge, hi.
Hello, Leon. How are you?
Good.
Leon, I just want to make a comment about council rates, if I could. I mounted a bit of a defence there, I guess. I'm not going to comment on Mitcham's situation. I don't know that, of course. Adelaide City Council, this year, our average rate increase is 4.9%, slightly above the CPI. A couple of points I want to make if I can. Firstly, the CPI, the basket of goods that apply to normal CPI, not the things that councils buy. Our CPI, we have an adjusted CPI, which is done by the LGA, which takes into account, for example, the cost of energy, the cost of fuel, and things which have gone up probably more than normal CPI. So those impact on us. But we also, this year for Adelaide City Council, we've got a massive increase in our energy costs because the cost of power is going up well above CPI, as you well know. We've done things to try and reduce that impact, and we're still working on that. The cost of waste disposal, waste management, is going up much more than CPI. The state government has raised the fees for...
you're talking about the zero waste levy.
That's right. It's gone up. This year is going up dramatically, and we're also factoring in the carbon price impact as well.
How much do you think that's going to be?
Well, in the case of Adelaide City Council, it's about $1 million in a full year.
$1 million a year, you reckon the carbon tax is going to cost the council?
Yeah, well, the pricing system we don't have our own waste disposal site. We use a contracted one at Inkerman, as with other councils too. But that's one factor. The other factor is the energy cost, of course, and we're working to, for example, our biggest energy use is public lighting.
Oh, yes.
We're in the process of changing all those over to LED. That's going to cost us about $700,000 over a few years, but it'll take but we're working on that. The only thing I wanted to say, though, was that asset management is a major issue for local government. We've probably been a bit lackadaisical in the past in terms of upkeep of our roads and our footpaths. Drainage systems, all those things have to be maintained now to much higher standards, much more accountable.
Although, depending on which council, though, there are some dual responsibilities there as to who funds it. Sometimes it's the council, other times it's partly funded also by other government tiers, for example, state or even federal.
Oh, well, yes, certainly.
So your asset management is not necessarily a mutually exclusive 100%er for the council, is it?
No, but it is going up. I mean, I'm not saying necessarily which particular council, but councils generally, over the last couple of decades, we haven't put enough money into maintaining the assets. It's catching up on us, and we're going to have to do that better, so that's coming into it. The other thing I wanted to say, if I can, is that every council is required to produce a business plan and budget and put it out to the public for consultation. In our own case, this year, we had about 3,000 submissions back on our business plan and budget, which is a very good response. We used a lot of Facebook and other sort of more modern media. And we modified our budget to reflect some of those things.
What was the biggest change you made, David, as a result of the feedback you got after you put your business plan out for consultation? What was the biggest? Could you pick one that's you would regard as significant?
I think probably for us, being the capital city council, we were asked to put more money into events, providing support for events, activating the city, making the city itself more presentable in terms of quality of public realm. That was a thing coming back to us all the time. Improve Rundle Mall, improve Victoria Square. And those things we did reflect those in our budget. Now, we didn't go all the way, of course, but we managed to hold it to about 4.9. The other thing to say is that, in the end, what people pay in rates reflects what the value of the property is. And if people improve their property in the course of a year, then their value, they go up and they'll pay more than the average rate.
Yeah, well, it is a wealth tax, really, because, isn't it? I mean, let's not pretend that it's because just because you have a house worth X dollars doesn't mean your capacity to pay to upkeep it is commensurate with that increase.
Well, that's quite true, Leon, but that's the only source of revenue we have.
I understand. I understand. It's a perennial argument.
Yeah, and we do have provisions for people who are perhaps asset-rich and cash-poor to defer their payments, particularly older people who are caught that way. All councils have provisions to deal with that, to help with that. But it is true that we don't have a revenue source which has a growth factor.
But let me ask you this. What would be wrong, and John Daly's often talked about this, about applying for councils generally, the costs that you pay in your rates reflecting the cost of the services provided as opposed to what your property's worth?
Well, that's another way of doing it. There are some provisions in the Act for councils to have a service fee arrangement. So you could make a service fee for waste collection, for example. You could make more user pays, I suppose. You could start charging for library services. We don't support that, by the way. But I mean,
Sure.
at the end of the day, I must say, by the way, Leon, that the demands on Adelaide City Council for services, for improvements, far outstrips the money we have. We are cautious about that and prudential about our borrowings and everything else. But, there's always a list of things people want done better, as well as people wanting to
Tell
pay
me,
less.
how much do you guys generally have to borrow, and what sort of interest do you have to pay per year?
Well, the interest rate currently is around about 6%, I think it is. So much of our borrowing is done to the Local Government Association's Finance Authority, which is a very good system. Adelaide City Council is slightly different from other councils. We don't have a great degree of debt at present.
And I think you'd want to keep it that way, wouldn't you?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
We're well below our prudential limits. I must say that the two major projects coming on stream, Rundle Mall and Victoria Square, we're going to be borrowing for some of that work. So again, I'm personally happy with that. We're borrowing for permanent assets, not borrowing to run the show. We're borrowing to build things which have a future use for future generations, and that's, again, part of our role as a capital city is to provide something for everyone in the state to come and enjoy and use.
Yeah.
So there's slightly different pressures for us, but all councils. I mean, I had some years you made on Salisbury Council. We always try to keep our rates up to scratch to keep up with our asset development. I think it's paying off now.
Sure.
If you let your rates slip behind the actual cost of running the show, then you will have a day of reckoning. It will come.
Yeah. Well, David, thank you for calling in. I'm very happy to hear from you, Deputy Lord Mayor David Plumridge, putting the other view about council rates, and we're happy to hear all sides of the arguments, as you know. Look, it's 28 to 1.